You are lying in bed having a conversation with someone who is not there. This time, you know exactly what to say. Your voice stays calm. Every sentence lands perfectly. The other person finally understands. Maybe they apologize, maybe you win, maybe the conversation has not even happened yet and may never happen at all. Nothing is being said out loud. But your brain is running the scene as if it were a rehearsal. That is because your mind does not only remember the past, it also uses pieces of the past to build possible futures. And when you imagine a conversation, your brain is not creating it from nothing. It borrows a familiar face, a phrase someone used last week, the tone of an old argument, and your memory of how people usually react. Then it rearranges those fragments into a new event. The result is a kind of social simulator. Inside it, you can test a risky sentence without saying it. You can predict an objection, search for a clearer explanation, or prepare yourself for an uncomfortable reaction. Inner speech gives your thoughts a structure. The imagined person gives them resistance. Instead of vaguely feeling that something is wrong, you hear the problem in words. This can be useful. If you need to ask for a raise, set a boundary, admit a mistake, or deliver bad news, a short rehearsal can reduce uncertainty. It can reveal that your explanation is too long, your opening sounds aggressive, or you do not actually know what you want from the conversation. But imagined conversations have one enormous advantage over real ones. You control both people. You decide what the other person says. You decide when they finally understand. You decide which evidence convinces them. Even when the fantasy becomes hostile, the hostility is still being generated by a mind that already knows your fears. Real people are less cooperative. They misunderstand the sentence you practiced. They answer a question you did not expect. They stay silent. They change the subject. They bring their own memories, motives, and private version of the story. That unpredictability is exactly why the brain keeps rehearsing. It is trying to turn a social situation with thousands of possible outcomes into a script that feels manageable. And social situations can feel unusually important. A badly chosen sentence can create conflict, embarrassment, rejection, or a loss of trust. For a deeply social species, words are not merely sounds. They can change relationships, status, safety, and belonging. So the brain treats an uncertain conversation like a problem that might be solved with one more simulation, one more opening, one more comeback, one more version in which you finally say it perfectly. This is where preparation can quietly turn into a loop. A useful rehearsal usually produces something new. It helps you choose a goal, find a sentence, anticipate a likely response, or decide what to do next. Then it reaches an endpoint. A loop keeps generating emotion without generating information. The location changes, the wording changes. Sometimes you win, and sometimes everything goes wrong. But no decision becomes clearer. The conversation simply restarts because the mind is still searching for certainty that a real social encounter cannot provide. Psychologists use terms such as worry and rumination for forms of repetitive negative thinking. They are not identical. Worry often leans toward possible future threats, while rumination often returns to distress and its meaning, but both can feel like problem solving while repeatedly circling the same uncertainty. That is why an imaginary argument can't leave you physically tense. The scene is fictional, but the anger, shame, or fear it activates is real. Each replay can make the conversation feel more urgent, even when nothing outside your head has changed. The difference is not whether you talk to imaginary people. That ability is part of how a mind plans. The difference is whether the rehearsal is moving toward action or replacing it. The next time a conversation starts playing in your head, ask one question. What decision is this rehearsal trying to make? Maybe the answer is simple. I need to tell them no. I want to ask what they meant. And I should apologize without defending myself. Right? Write down the one sentence that matters. Choose the next real action. Then leave room for the other person to be unpredictable. And if there is no decision, no possible action, and no new information, the mind may not be preparing anymore. It may be trying to obtain perfect control over an event that exists only as a possibility, or over a past moment that cannot be rewritten. You do not need to silence the voice in your head. It is a simulator, and simulators can be useful. But no simulation can complete a conversation for you. At some point, the script has to end, and another human being has to be allowed to speak.